Quite an interesting reaction that we got to the preschool conversation. I'm going to give you the details out once again. I'm also going to tweet the details of the Preschool Association in case you do agree that these fees should be regulated. And I'm finding that a lot of you do feel that although your child is benefiting and it is so vital that they have this form of education, it's just a little bit too expensive. So let's see, let's talk about that further. But right now, let's turn our attention to the rest of the continent, and the 26th session of the African Union Summit will start in Ethiopia this coming Saturday. Security concerns on the continent are high on the agenda. The meeting comes amid political instability in Burundi following elections, as well as the recent terror attacks in Burkina Faso and Somalia. President Jacob Zuma will lead South Africa's delegation to the summit, and for more on this, we are joined by our SABC foreign editor, Sophie Mokoena, who is in Addis Ababa. Sophie, good to have you on the line, and welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Leanne.
We've mentioned some of the AU concerns. Do you have any indication of the agenda at this point?
Well, of course, high on the agenda will be issues that has got to do with the development in the continent. As you are aware that President Jacob Zuma is one of the leaders who is in charge of ensuring that the issues of infrastructure is high on the agenda, and there is movement in that front, but also to ensure that all the regions in the continent are linked in terms of infrastructure. But the issue of peace and security, if you don't have peace and security, investment becomes a problem. Therefore, it is also high on the agenda. We saw the Peace and Security Council meeting yesterday, where they were discussing all those hotspots. You spoke about Burundi, you can talk about Lesotho, you can talk about DRC, you can also look at the situation in South Sudan. They had a discussion around that. And yesterday I was fortunate to speak to one person, a representative from Angola, who is based at the United Nations. He was part of the delegation that went to Burundi to get first-hand information in terms of what's happening on the ground. And Ambassador Ismail Martins told me that they have agreed that they are proposing that AU and the UN should send the observers to go and monitor the situation in Burundi, because they don't want the situation to escalate and the killings to continue, but emphasize that there is government there and there were elections there. Therefore, all stakeholders must work together, and the government itself must create a climate of negotiations to ensure that there's peace in Burundi. The issue of development, I spoke to Dr. Ngozi Okonjoela, who is the chairperson of the board of the African Risk Capacity. The risk capacity deals with issues such as drought. You are aware that currently South Africa is experiencing drought. The AU has got a institution that deals with that, and there is an insurance, and they are encouraging African countries to take that insurance so that come the time where you have these disasters, they are able to tap into those resources to assist their people.
I just want to get back to the issue of Burundi. I mean, African leaders could decide to deploy a peacekeeping force in Burundi unilaterally, despite Burundi's rejection of such a force. Why would the AU force the issue when Burundi rejected help from the United Nations?
I don't think the AU will force the issue, but I think they will try to persuade the leadership in that country to understand the reasons behind the deployment of such a force. But also remember, Burundi is arguing that they are involved in different parts of the continent where they have troops in peacekeeping missions, for an example, in Somalia. Therefore, if they can protect other citizens in other countries, why can't they protect their own people? And they are arguing that the violence is isolated. It's only in Bujumbura, in certain parts of the capital city, but the countryside and the vast country and areas, other areas, there is relative peace. Therefore, they have to convince Burundi to ensure that Burundi understand why a necessity to deploy such a force. And when yesterday I spoke to Ambassador Martins, I could sense some sort of toning down of the positions from these multilateral bodies, because he said there is government there, there were elections there, therefore stakeholders must work together. You cannot say people must work together with a particular government when you undermine the same government. Therefore, they will have to persuade. Diplomacy and shuttle diplomacy will have to take place to ensure that Burundi understands. And therefore, I expect when they meet with leaders over the weekend, a decision will be taken in terms of what needs to happen in Burundi.
What is the sense from Ethiopians about the instability in their neighbor Somalia? I mean, surely the AU security is concerned about militant attacks.
Yes, the Ethiopians here are worried about the security in this region in general, but they are quite confident that their security forces will be up to the task should there be any eventuality. You are aware that we have lots and lots of Ethiopian peacekeeping troops in different parts of the continent, and they are working together with other countries. Therefore, this brings some sort of relief to the Ethiopians themselves, knowing that they are involved, and should there be any challenge in their own country, the African countries will assist them. Therefore, they are confident that the role they play in the continent to bring peace is actually ensuring that they themselves, there's peace in their own country.
All right, Sophie, let's leave it there for this hour. Hopefully we can catch up with you in the next hour because there is so much to talk about ahead of the 26th session of the African Union Summit starting in Ethiopia on Saturday. Sophie Mokoena is our political editor here at the SABC. She is in Addis Ababa covering it, and we certainly would love to talk about what's happening when our president arrives in the South African delegation and the meeting ahead of the AU Summit. Let's